We on? Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order tonight of the Board of Selectmen meeting for March 22nd, 2022 at 6:30. The time is actually 6:32. We're going to start with a roll call. Myself, Bob Carlson, the first selectman, Nicole Porter, selectwoman, and Selectman Brett Mastriani. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Okay. Do we have any public comment on non-agenda items? Non-agenda items. No, Joe, you got time. Go ahead if you got something. All right, he's all set. Okay, hearing none. We're going to go to Selectmen comments. Nicole, Brett, anything that you'd like to speak about?
The only thing I wanted to say is I went to the Conservation Commission the other night, and I was excited to hear that there's going to be a first annual Seven Rivers Festival that is going to be kind of combined with all of the kind of Wood Pawcatuck River areas. And they were just toying with the idea of having like a town picnic at Hewitt, and people could enter the waterways there, and just kind of, it appears to be multiple different celebrations all over and up and down the that whole corridor, that whole river
Nice.
corridor. It was just really a nice thing. That's pretty much it for me.
Thanks, Nicole. Brett?
Just, well, you guys were all at the meeting last night, but the Hewitt Farm Committee meeting, I just wanted to let you know that anybody that's listening, the farmers market is moving forward. As of today, we reached the number of exhibitors that we needed and vendors to be there. So it is moving forward. There's been some fundraising that's been happening and some donations, just straight donations from members of the community that want to see it happen. So that is moving forward, and it's May 15th will be the first one at the Hewitt Farm.
Okay, that's it. Okay, first Selectmen comments, two things. I met with the NSAA, North Stonington Ambulance Association. I just want to make sure the taxpayers are getting their bang for the buck and we're getting the service that we pay for. We pay a lot of money for the North Stonington Ambulance Association. And I've got information in from the Groton Dispatch on calls that were made and missed, what percentage are missed, what the time it takes to get from the call to the site, and also we've discussed a little bit about budget and what other ambulance services may be able to offer the town. So it's just preliminary now, but I'm thinking that after we get through budget season, it's something that we're going to address as a board and may have to make a decision. There's also the states involved because there's a thing called the PSA, and that allows them to have a certain place. The state assigns PSAs to different ambulance services, and North Stonington is assigned to the North Stonington Ambulance Association. So it's not as easy as just saying, okay, we're going to make a switch. So that's something you'll hear more about down the road as we try to protect the taxpayer and what we're paying and get the services we're getting. Secondly, I met with Heather Summers and a representative that wants to build small homes for veterans. They're looking for, I think it's 25 acres of land, and they put up 50 small houses that aren't much bigger than a garden shed in your backyard. They have a gymnasium, they have gardens, and it's just on the beginning stages. The first operation is being built in Albany, New York. I'm going to wait to see how that goes, but we'll meet more on that and talk about the positives and negatives about something like that in the town of North Stonington. Okay, that's it for what I have tonight. Next is an ARP request. It's a rec program, $15,000, and I think we have a presentation by Emily Mastriani. Okay, hit that mic one time. Oh yeah, oh ARP.
Hello.
Yes.
All right. One time. So good evening. My name is Emily Mastriani. I am a member of our Recreation Commission. I'm joined here by two other members, Jim Holdridge and Lori Umplett, along with our Recreation Director. The purpose of my time here this evening is to discuss the American Rescue Plan Act. We were first introduced to an opportunity for some program funding with this act in February, specifically focusing on opportunities for wellness initiatives for our residents. So during our most recent commission meeting, there was a motion that was approved to formally come forward and request the $15,000 funding, which is what brings us here this evening. We believe that we will successfully utilize the funding and provide residents opportunities to engage in activities which adhere to the guidelines of this program. We commit to working closely with our town's administration and finance officer to ensure that all funding criteria is met. So I'm sure you're asking yourself right now, what would we do with this? Well, we have some suggestions. While keeping in mind the different age groups with residents here, some initial ideas. For some younger children, there's an opportunity to explore programming that would take place after our summer camp program. There's also some opportunity for some programming that stand alone. Some of you may remember some of our more popular programs from years past. The ever popular arts and crafts program they called Ooey Gooey, something like that. Sports and games, and also basketball programs and even tennis. For other residents, such as preteens, teens, and even adults, there may be interest in yoga and meditation programs. We were brainstorming some ideas for day trips, whether it be locally, such as kayaking in Mystic or ropes courses in Stonington. Discussions also included things like tubing down the Farmington River, biking trips to some of the many bike paths within the state of Connecticut and surrounding areas, golf, fishing, whether it be a derby or even a fishing trip out of a local charter in Groton or Waterford. And then there was even a speculation of maybe a whale watch. So, and also one thing that we were hoping to do was bring back something like a movie night, which we had done previously, probably about 4 years ago. So while none of these ideas are set in stone, it's the start of a plan. From here, with your approval, we can then begin to carve out a calendar and set this plan into motion. This also presents an opportunity for North Stonington Recreation to explore programming for the future based on feedback that we receive from these types of programs. So with that, I thank you for your time and consideration. We do appreciate that recreation was identified for this opportunity. And with your approval, we will begin to work to offer residents some of these experiences this summer with that $15,000 allocation. Any questions that I can answer, or any of the members?
15, 1-5, right?
1-5,
Okay.
yes.
And is it for people that can't afford to go to programs, or is this open for anybody?
So as we were talking about this, we would open this through our portal and again, take recommendations through different services within the town. We do receive recommendations and also some scholarship programs through that we do grant from local administration. So that's an opportunity there as well. But I think part of the emphasis on this was to enable programs that people may not have the ability to participate in. And with this COVID relief and focus on well-being, and we all define that differently, right? What well-being might be for me might be something different for everybody here. Offering an array of programs that would interest a variety of people.
Okay, I don't fish, but Brian Rathman told me one time there used to be in town a one time a year fishing derby every summer
Yeah.
for the kids in town. So
Yeah.
Laura, you probably remember that, I guess. But I think it was done at Hewitt, maybe Hewitt Farm, and something like that would be a great thing to bring back, I think.
Yep.
Maybe get the participation like you do when you do an Easter egg hunt or one of those things. So I think it's great, and thank you for presenting. Any other questions? before we open?
I was just gonna ask, similar to your question, if this was free for all residents that wanted to participate, because I know I spoke to Linda Costanza about something similar prior, and I let her know about the different grants and opportunities that you guys do for people that can't afford. She mentioned that it's nice to just offer it for people in general, that some people won't approach you and say they can't afford it. They just won't do it. So I think this is great. And I honestly think if you can do it where it is free for the residents to participate, and if they don't have to jump through hoops to get approved to be able to do it for free, I think it goes along with the American Rescue Plan Act to help that. So I'm in favor.
Thank you. Is there any questions from the audience, either online or in present, that would like to ask Emily a question? Is it online, Christine? No? Okay.
Bob, I have a question for you. So are we looking to approve this to send it to Board of Finance as a lump sum 15,000 without, and that's it? And then it goes into their account for this purpose?
Well, typically what we try to do is we hear or read something one night, and then at the next meeting, we address it in a vote. So I would say that we would table this until our next meeting and vote on it then. But then, yeah, we can decide, we can discuss it this evening. We can decide on how we want to handle it. But unless you're comfortable voting on it tonight, but in the past, we'd like to digest something for a while.
So it has to go to Board of Finance?
Yes, it has to go to Board of Finance for a,
I'm completely fine voting on it tonight.
Right,
I
okay.
think it's an excellent use of what the funds were meant for and everything that the kids and people have gone through in the last 2 years. I couldn't think of a better reason to give it. So I'm completely fine voting tonight. Whatever you guys want.
I'm in favor of moving it forward tonight, just knowing our budget timeline, our town, what we're looking to do for town meeting wise and getting things at one town meeting. And I do think this is a better opportunity than giving another 15 towards the Cultural Coalition, when we talked about how can we help with
Yeah, I mean, we've given money from the ARPA funds to a lot of the area social services, but I like the fact that this is right here in town serving our, not that the other social services don't serve our residents, but I like the fact that we're keeping it right in town.
right. On the last list you gave me, Christine, did this have this on it?
It did not. So with what's been officially approved, $282,685.20 has been officially approved. But when you add in the amount that's been approved for the demo of 298 and the money that's been earmarked for the EDC program, that leaves us with $155,074.04 to still allocate of the initial 1.5 million.
So this will bring us down to roughly 140.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve the rec commission's request for $15,000 for rec programs for our residents through the ARPA funds.
I second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I would just say this, that at the community conversation, I know we bring that up a lot because we heard a lot that day. There's an awful lot of talk about recreation, mental health, and so on. And so I think when we do things like this, it makes sense. So if there's no other discussion, we can bring this to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, 3-0. Thank you. You're all set. Yes, you do not have to listen to the rest of the meeting.
Oh, you don't want to stay for the next 3 hours?
What, excuse me? I don't want to stay for the next 3 hours either.
I did see the word budget on the agenda, so I'm sure.
Be quick. All right. Good night. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Okay. Next, we have another presentation tonight. This is by Alexis from the Sustainable CT. Hi, Alexis. This one, if you don't mind. That way they see it there. Is it on?
Can you hear me? Oh, okay. Yeah, you can.
You're on.
Okay. Thank you so much for inviting me to join you this evening. I'm the chair of the Sustainability Committee. And so just giving you a quick update on what we've been up to. Thought I'd give you a little bit of a background So the committee was formally begun in June of 2021. And kind of our first order of business was to go through the application process for sustainable CT. So this was our third time of being certified at the bronze certification level of sustainable CT, which is a program that we first got involved in 2018. And so we succeeded in getting the bronze certification. So really all of our efforts were dedicated to getting that application in. For reference, we had been applying for the silver certification level, which requires 400 points. We got 300 of the 400. So we're kind of very nearly there, but had some additional work to do. We're currently evaluating what efforts would be required in order to apply at the silver certification level for this year, which will open up in kind of the June timeframe again. And it's something that we can apply for sort of within our team. So I don't think it requires a lot of the town's efforts. And it's just a matter of if we think that we can kind of get there and whether it, the time and resources of the team are well spent to apply for the silver certification, but that's what we will are kind of evaluating now. There is another program that Sustainable CT launched and is kind of a pilot program called the Climate Leader Designation. This is something, again, which if we were to receive that designation as a town, it would just be another accolade as, we are a sustainable town and we have taken certain initiatives, which then makes us a climate leader in the Connecticut community. That has 140 points. We currently sit at 35 points just based on an initial kind of evaluation. It's sort of a subset of the overall sustainable CT certification. So it's something that we could do in conjunction. It's not like one has to be done separately. So that's something else that we're evaluating, whether we could kind of get towards that 140 points with kind of what we're currently doing, whether that would make sense as sort of an initiative to apply for. Then separately, I would say, following the certification for sustainable CT, we are kind of trying to find our way in terms of what projects our committee wants to really tackle that are outside of the confines of the sustainable CT program. So I think we've been sort of, putting a lot of ideas out there and kind of formulating thoughts in terms of what we want to spend our time doing. So a couple things have kind of bubbled up and are really initiatives that we have been focusing on and are working towards. One small thing that we involved some kind of due diligence, but what ultimately came out of it was we were looking into Eversource's energy audit program, which is a either free or subsidized energy audit that Eversource will provide to residents of a community. And so as a result of that, we obtained Energize CT brochures that were provided to the Wheeler Library and to Town Hall. And there's separate business brochures that were provided as well, depending on, who's getting the audit. So just kind of publicizing and bringing some awareness to the fact that this program exists and is, oftentimes something that's free to kind of assess your own home's energy usage and how you can kind of save energy as well. It's also save money too. So that was one little small project that we undertook. The other thing that I would say, one thing that we're really trying is to kind of raise a little bit more awareness of our existence and to try to potentially get some additional members. We're quite small right now at 5 people. So one of the other things that we did was put together a sustainable North Stonington webpage and corresponding Facebook page. So to kind of, I think part of our mission is to kind of just promote what is out there in terms of different, either small little things that each person can do from a sustainability standpoint that are oftentimes very easy, and just kind of considerations for how each of us can do like a little thing to make overall change. And so the goal of the Sustainable North Stonington page is to kind of post different, both what we're working on from a project standpoint in case people have interest in getting involved in some capacity, but as also just sort of those little tidbits of information that we're learning and kind of want to share with the greater community if they're interested in kind of learning some of those tips and tricks. So that was the goal of having this webpage put together that's dedicated to just information sharing, as well as that Facebook page. And the other thing that we were looking kind of specifically for is, from a new member standpoint, is somebody who's really interested in social media. I admittedly am not on Facebook, so it's not the greatest person to be kind of engaging. So we certainly want more engagement in a positive way, and that would be a helpful addition to our team if we had somebody who was really interested in kind of taking that on. So on that note, we just submitted to the North Stonington Quarterly a little blurb about our committee and what we're working on a little bit, and kind of a bit of a call to any potential new members that might want to join, or at least just know what we're doing and check out our page if they're interested, and just kind of have some greater awareness of what we're doing. Another thing that's kind of maybe an end goal of one of the other initiatives we're working on is we've been speaking with the North Stonington Agricultural Fair about whether there's an opportunity to provide some products for them, like trash bags and paper towels and plates and things like that for their ham and beans dinner, as well as with potentially some of their vendors that maybe are marketed as being compostable or, made out of recycled material, so that we're promoting awareness of, where your trash ends up, but also we would sponsor it. And so therefore there would be materials about our committee, just so that if people are attending, they get their, ham and beans on a plate, and as they see that, they, have an opportunity to learn a little bit more about what we do. So we would subsidize that through Sustainable CT. One of the benefits of the certification is that we get the opportunity to apply for a matching grant. So it's half crowdsourced, but then half Sustainable CT kicks in the other half. It's up to $50,000. So they were currently kind of putting together a budget for what that project would entail. And then we would look to crowdfund for half of it. And then I've already gotten approval from Sustainable CT that would be an eligible program for the grant. So that would just be, a way for us to kind of put our, spread the word, but also, raise awareness about trying to use more eco-friendly materials, from an event like that, where there's a lot of food being consumed and trash being made. Along the lines of the that matching grant that I mentioned, one initiative that we've been involved in is the Pollinator Pathway Program. So that project is currently in crowdfunding. There's a $500 goal, $335 as of now has been raised, and there's still 39 days left. So that, again, has been an approved project by Sustainable CT, so they would kick in the other half. They have a budget together in terms of what they're looking to do from sort of the Pathways program. We are also looking to do some sort of kind of at the end, once the money has been raised, to do some sort of celebratory event, potentially at Wheeler Library, because I know they're doing a children's garden that would involve pollinator friendly plants. And so that would be another opportunity for us to kind of make an event out of it that becomes a little bit more sustainable and sustainability focused. And one other thing that I'll just mention that we're kind of gearing up for, certainly Earth Day is Friday, April 22nd. We're going to try to do some sort of area cleanup. There's a page where we can post that, if anybody wants to get together and kind of do a trash cleanup on that day, as well as gearing up for basically utilizing the new kayak canoe trail as an opportunity to do like a fun, probably in the August or September timeframe, going down the new trail with canoes and kayaks, and then doing cleanup along the river, sort of from the boat. So that was an idea that was floated as like a cleanup of the waterways. That would be kind of a fun community event as well. So I think that's sort of it. Any questions?
All right, I have a few. So, thanks, Alexa, for coming. So on the 300 points we have so far
Mhm.
to get the bronze level, and you said it's 400 for silver. We don't lose those 300. We have those, we've attained those. Now we're just going to try to get the next level. On the pollinator pathways, is there anything planned for you at farm? Because we were at a meeting last night and we talked about a field that they don't cut and then let butterflies use.
Mhm.
But we also might need that field for parking for the farmers market that's been out, you know, the artesian farmers market that we've been proposing. So I guess I just want to make sure, did you have that earmarked as one of the fields you're using at you at farm over near the community garden, or it's not at this point?
Not that I'm aware of. I will double check, but I am not aware of anything specifically at Hewitt Farm. I think a lot of the earmarked areas are around town and then residents kind of around the area. But I'll double check, but not that
Okay,
I'm aware of.
If it's not, that's good because we're probably going to want to mow it so we can use it for parking for the farmers market. So.
Right.
And then third, a woman named Donna Scherer reached out to me a while back and she wanted to do a 1 day, no stove cleans up, no stove. Get children involved and they can't go on the main roads, of course, but have people show up and just pick up the roads in North Stonington, like an anti-litter campaign, like a 1 day. I said, did you want to do it during Earth Day? And she said, well, that's coming too soon. I'd rather do something in the
Oh,
fall.
Okay.
So I might try to reach out to her and give her some contact information with you. Maybe something that we can organize through your group.
Sure.
And that'd be great.
Yeah, sounds
Okay.
great. Thank you.
Anything from Brett or Nicole? No. Okay. Anything from the audience, online or in person? So Nita, you're saying that you would farm, there's some butterfly areas already, but they're not official through the pollinator pathways to sustainable. No, they are. All right, just check into that for me.
Yeah,
because
sure.
I would hate to have them be official, then we mow them all down and then
Right.
they'll come back, but not right away.
Okay. No, I'll double check on that. Thank you.
Okay. Other than that, Alexis, I'd just say you've done a great job. Thank you so much. And
Thank you. Great work.
appreciate your work and hopefully you'll be able to add a few people to your committee. And if no other questions, I think that's it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for your time.
Okay. On the old business budget discussion. So as you know, when we were at the last Board of Finance meeting, the Board of Finance came out with a directive. They wanted the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Ed to both take off about $106,500 each. I believe the number was to get up to 213,000, which they felt would then allow them to come out to a balanced mill rate, where there'd be no mill increase or decrease at that point. The Board of Ed met last evening and they came up with $106,000. So I had some ideas. I still do have some ideas I wanted to float by the two other selectmen as far as my thoughts. I've got thoughts on both revenue and on expense cutting. And I'd like to hear from the both of you and see if there's any other areas you'd like to look at. So no further ado, I'll explain to you what I'm thinking, and then we can move on to see what you guys are thinking. So my thought is two areas. As I said to Paul that evening, I've been in a board of selectmen meeting before. We've tried to cut multiple line items by 1,000 here and 2,000 there, and it just doesn't seem to work. It doesn't really put a dent in the budget, and it hurts a lot of areas. It's always easy to go after capital. But then again, when we go after capital, then we hurt ourselves in the long run because we're kicking the can down the road. But there's two areas in capital I think we can do something with. One is the parking lot for the school. It's $50,000. I've been over there to look at it. It's a fairly new parking lot. I don't think it has to be done, at least for another year. If we knock that off and just pushed it back for 1 year, when hopefully next year we have more revenue, with all the things that are coming up in town, it would make sense to push everything back for 1 year on that. So that would save us $50,000. The other thought, and actually Brett, I think, brought it up earlier, was on the floating floor truck that Donnie had asked for. So that's $92,000, and I'm in a position to say that we would take that out of the budget. Just a suggestion. And I thought that depending on what the economic development's business plan does, which is $100,000 earmarked for that, or any other funds that we may have in ARPA funding, we might be able to address that again later in the year, not through a town appropriation per se, but through ARPA funding. We'd still have to go to a town meeting because it'd be over $20,000. But I think to get to the 106,000, if you do the 92 and the 50 plus whatever you and Brett come up with, Nicole, I think would put us in the right direction, even at doing more than what the Board of Finance asked us for. There's two possible revenue, more than possible revenue amounts we could add in. One is we found out yesterday that the Ella Wheeler solar project is actually going to start sooner than we thought, and we can start billing them out as soon as they start producing. And according to Darrell, who spoke with their representatives yesterday, they're going to start producing on June 1st. So we can, I think the exact number was it 102,000, 101,000?
$101,259 for year one.
I think that's very safe to put that into the budget because they're starting. And once they start, we can bill it. So we know that's going to be available for next year. So I would put that as additional revenue. And then the second thing is we had discussions earlier in the last few weeks. And again, I discussed this with a potential person that wants to rent out Hewitt Farm. I think it's comfortable to say that we're going to get that rented out sooner instead of later. And I think we can realize income from that going into next year. If we just did $1,200 a month, and then the person that rented it would pay the utilities. And we do have one person that's definitely interested now. We will put it out as an application to make it fair for all people to apply. I think it's safe to say that if we put $14,000 into the budget, which is 12 months at $12,000, $1,200 per month, I think it's safe to say we're going to do that. So the Hewitt Farm Committee knows what we're doing. We voted on the last time to go to the Plan B, which is to get the house rentable. We can do things like the windows in the fall. I met with someone today that can do the floorboards for us. So I think we're moving in the right direction. There is funding in the budget to get the building ready to go, and we could probably rent it out maybe as early as June 1st if we get the application process started. So those two things, $14,000 and $101,000, I think are pretty positive to put in. We don't like to put in revenue that we're not sure of, but I think that's pretty definite. And I look for comments on those items. And then I'd also like to find out from the two other selectmen what areas they'd like to look at for possible cuts.
Regarding your cuts, I agree with your cuts to a certain extent. I actually would like to look into seal coating and buying the equipment to seal coat our own properties. I've talked to a few seal coating companies in the past, and I've dealt with them for the Holly Green complex and some others. There is a considerable amount of markup in that material, but usually to get the system going, you're looking at about a $12,000 spend to buy the equipment to do it. So knowing that it's $50,000 just to do the school, we also, right now, the rec facility is in rough shape, that parking lot, multiples others, the senior center. I know this timing might not work because of Donnie being off and budget season, but I'd like to look into that, and I'd like to talk to Donnie about why that's one thing that we do sub out when we've taken so many other things that are more complicated under the highway department's workload. Because I think it's something that we could do in-house and save a ton of money over a period of time. The floating floor trailer, I'm concerned about cutting it completely out. Part of my thought process is, do we put half in this year, half in next year, in the start of that second fiscal year, then we purchase it? Or if we can take it out of COVID, then COVID ARPA funds, then that might be the way to go too. But completely wiping it out without a plan, I worry that we're doing what we always say happens. We automatically just cut capital and then we never have it in here. And then next year, we're gonna have to come up with the $100,000 for that. So I'm okay taking out or a portion of, if we can come up with some kind of plan, how we're gonna complete that project. Regarding other cuts, I know you guys are gonna not like this one, but I go back to the library. I value the Wheeler Library. I do, but we haven't increased anyone else like this 15%. I know 2 years ago, we pretty much went from 35,000 to 65,000. And I know they asked for 85. We went to 75. I'd like to see that go back to the 65. I'm not saying to reduce it from what we've given them in the past, but I'd like to see that stay the same. And then Christine, for B27, let me get to it now. 07, I know we as a board upped the diesel and gas because we were concerned. What was I couldn't find it here because I couldn't find my last one. What was the proposal from the highway department for that? I forgot exactly how much we upped it ourselves. Okay. I think you're right. I think you're right. I think it was 2,000. Because I think we took it out of somewhere else, put it there.
Once you're looking back on your wheel library proposal, so just to get the facts right, that they were 35, they went to 55, then 65, and then they asked for 85 this year, we dropped to 75, so it would have been 55, 65, 75. Were you proposing a $10,000 cut there to bring it back down to 65? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I'm just, I like to say I'm proposing no increase compared to a cut because
Sounds better.
we didn't give it to them yet. Yeah, I'm proposing we stay with the 65 on that one. And then,
The request from highway was 54,000. So it was an increase of, from last year of 52,250. Yeah, 52,250 to 54,000. And then you all bumped it up 56 because gas prices have increased since he
Right.
submitted.
Are you proposing something there?
I just wanted to look at that and, they'll have a better handle on that. The pricing's gone down a little bit, but it's going to bounce back up. But I don't want to have a line item there that we didn't budget enough for, knowing what's going on. So I don't know if that 2,000 makes a huge dent in anything. One question I did have, and I tried to find it out on my own, but regarding the North Stonington Fair and the police presence there. I've talked to members of the committee. I've talked to former members of the fire department and the fair committee, and nobody knows when do we need to provide that service for them there? So some members say, hey, we pay for private security to be there. And they don't recall when it was necessary for us to pay for police presence to be there. Where we used to schedule the Thursday and Friday when we had resident troopers on duty to be there and to be around. But I know the overtime on that, it's around $25,000. So I don't know where we get the answer of who says we have to provide that there. If the fair really needs that there, now that they have a private security company on duty all the time, they have them in the ticket booths, they have them walking around. I know members of the fire police are around. I know none of them have arrest power, but if there was something to happen, they could always call that in. I just like to get some clarification on if it's a law or a requirement that we have to provide that.
We
For
have
them.
two people from the fair committee here tonight, so.
If you guys have any information about when that started or or that process, I'd love it.
I don't think there's any requirement that the town, anything in writing that requires the town to cover the overtime. But whenever there's a mass gathering in town, a large event, first selectman usually looks at the situation and determines when they want to have a police officer or an ambulance or whatever at the event. We have some such events at least twice a year at the winery that we require them to have a police presence. Definitely have a lot more people at the fair. We have had fights at times. We had problems with drunk and disorderly. We do want to continue to have police officers at the fair. I don't know whether there is security. We hire a firm that helps with ticket sales and gates and so forth, but I don't think they provide any type of security really to the fair. They're mainly ticket and gate control and ticket sales. But I would not recommend discontinuing the town's contribution to the fair. It's a town event and it's tradition that we participate. And I would hope also that we get back to providing, on another note, we get back to providing the highway support that we used to provide in preparation for the fair. We're not doing what we used to. We're not providing the assistance to the fair, that the fairgrounds that we used to with our highway department. And it is the one community event that we all get behind and want to support, I would believe.
Thank you, Sean. Any other comments on the fair? Carl, we have all sorts of fair committee members here. On already, I think.
Nope. As far as the security, Sean's correct. The security only take care of the ticket booths. And they have two people that roll at night after everybody is gone, just to make sure that things are done together. I've got a phone call in to see if we have to have that presence from somebody. I probably will not have that answer tonight, though. I do think we need them on presence. If you do not have them here and it does not happen to be in town at the time, it's 25 to 45 minutes before somebody gets here if there's an emergency. So I believe that should still be inside for that amount of people on hand. Okay.
Thank you, Carl. Any other comments? Anything online? Okay, I have to agree with both Carl and Sean on that one. I think that, so the fair is kind of like it's the coming out of party of North Stonington in the summertime. It's the big event. We're the first fair of the season. We've had good publicity about the fair in the years past. I think that it makes sense. They don't have 4 policemen there all the time. I think Friday night and Saturday night they have 4. They have 2 the other times, but it's not inexpensive. But I think not having the police and what the negative results could outweigh what the expense is. So I'd rather see us cut in other ways. Some of the things we've discussed already, but I don't think I'd be in favor of cutting the police at the fair.
Yeah,
Did you say 4? There's 4 troopers?
They have 4 on Friday and Saturday nights, I believe, and 2 on the other times.
That sounds like a lot.
It's not.
No?
If they could be multiple fights going on at once. So, but a lot of young people having a good time at the fair.
Yeah, I just, like I said, I'm a proponent of the fair. I love the fair. I just wanted a background on it because I've had people approach me that said, we didn't always have to have police there. When did it switch? And I didn't have the answer. So that's why I wanted to find out. And $25,000 is a huge amount for security there, or for police presence there, I should say, not security.
No, I think you're right. 25 is a lot of money, but it's tough to price public safety. Right? It's tough to put a number on that. So, okay, Nicole, do you have any
Yeah.
additional?
So completely agree with the $50,000 for the driveways over at the school. I understand the upkeep of them. I am absolutely interested in pursuing if there's something that the town can end up doing in the future. I don't know if we're going to end up making it into the budget this quickly, but I completely agree. I think 50,000 can come out and we can look at that next year. I have a question about the floating floor trailer for the dump. So your suggestion is obviously taking out the 92,000, putting that back as a reduction, and then what is the plan what was your suggestion?
My
to-
plan was that to see what results we get from the EDC with their $100,000 we earmarked for the business plan. As we get farther and farther away from COVID and businesses are doing better, if that doesn't come to fruition, we take that money that was earmarked for that and use $92,000 of that towards the truck. If not,
Oh, okay. Now I understand.
if the business plan only used $50,000, then we could use the other $50,000 towards the truck and maybe just budget half of it or put
Okay.
half of it in this year and then half of it in next year. So
And then the solar farm. The solar farm are these the permits they're going to be pulling, or is this actual energy they're going to be
No, this-
producing that we're going to see?
so there's two solar farms. One is Silicon Ranch, which hasn't started yet, and
Okay.
one is Ella Wheeler that's just about complete. So Ella Wheeler was a project that the town had a contract with, that when they started producing energy, that we could then bill them out for taxes. And they're going to stop producing energy on June 1st. So we can start building them out. So we know that the money is going to come in next year because we can build them out. So in each year for the next, is that 25 or 40? 20 years. So every year for 20 years, we'll be getting this money. This is also the solar project we found out that is a third bigger than it was originally thought to be, and using quite a bit more acreage. So we have one of our town attorneys now working with their attorney to say, hey, the deal was cut for 15 megawatts on 115 acres, but you actually have 20 megawatts on almost 300 acres. So the deal is now, we're going to have to add to that deal. We're going to have to get a separate deal on top of that deal. So, but we don't know what that is, so we don't want to put that money in the revenue at this point. But what we do know we can put in is the $101,000.
And on a scale of 0 to 10, how confident are you that we'll see that in this budget season?
10.
So why would we, I'm still in favor of cutting the 50,000 for the seal coating, but why would we look to cut anything else if we're going to be adding $100,000 to,
Because the
in
Board of
revenue.
Finance asked us to cut 106,000.
but doesn't that even out if we have an extra 100,000 coming in?
It's, you can think of it that way, but then it's, if we do the cut, which they asked, and then on top of that, have the revenue coming in, then aren't we eventually helping the taxpayers even more than we thought we could?
And I do think that debate the other night about not spending the full grand list growth, I don't know if that they put that to bed yet. So I worry that if we don't work
Okay.
on the best budget we have now, that we're back here again after they finally decide to meet.
A lot of people do say the more we bring in, the more we spend. And I was hoping just to do the cuts and then have the additional revenue be gravy to what we cut.
And if the trailer for the transfer station, if something happens and that one is now out of commission, we'd be going back to the town to ask for appropriations from the undesignated fund to pay for it. How would we end up if it ended up absolutely not being usable before we can realize the money to purchase it, the new one? How would we then go
Well,
about?
If we
the
had
purchase?
to, we still have 140 left in ARPA funds, even if the business plan goes through. So we may be able to use a portion of that towards the truck and then go for an appropriation for the balance.
And the Board of Finance has said on multiple occasions, they're not afraid of one-time appropriations for one-time purchases. I mean, they've said it multiple times. They'd rather see it that way than in the budget sometimes. So I think there is room there. And has Donnie, did he get any more fixed costs on those? Yeah, he's been out, so. And there is a backup one, isn't there?
No, there's two. One stays parked so it can get filled while the other one's being taken to the
Okay.
incinerator.
Is it conceivable, that the one, so the problem with the one is the floor, basically, correct? So is it possible that the one, the good one, while it's making a run, the one that was the floor, it goes in and gets some, I mean, how long is the truck going for? Is it a matter of hours or?
Then you're going
There
to
and
be
back.
spending time unloading part of one into the other one when you move it back in. It's not efficient time wise.
But I think there is time on it. I don't think it necessarily has to be purchased in the next few months or maybe even this year. But it did come up in place of the trailer.
I mean, you're looking at next
Tractor
year's
trailer.
budget. So if it's not in this budget, we couldn't buy it for a year and a minimum of a
and-
year and 3 months.
Correct.
But as Brett was saying, if they didn't fix the old truck for the, $9,000 or whatever we spent to fix the old one, the mechanic Bob did a good job with it. That would still be in the budget, 120,000, and this truck probably wouldn't have come up. So
Right.
then when we fix the other truck, now this truck came up. So I'm willing to gamble on that to say that we have enough options for revenue to take care of it if we need to, and we might be able to squeeze through with it.
I will just say that Donnie didn't realize the condition it was in until we were already in the budget process. And that was when he took those pictures and saw daylight where he was not supposed to. So
Understood,
it
but I
could be a
think,
gamble.
understood, but if we had the 120 in and then added another 92, there's no way that would have flown this year. So
Or if we have to go through the undesignated fund, then we have to if it's an emergency like that.
And using ARPA funds for the trailer is completely,
should tell
Yeah,
you.
it would be another one where we would designate it as lost revenue. And then it's permissible under government services.
Nicole, do you have any other cuts on any other?
no,
I want-
I mean, you guys know how I feel about the library. I would like to leave that untouched if we possibly can. But I support the trailer and the seal coating.
Okay, if there's no other
Quick-
questions, I'll allow, go ahead, Brett.
I just have a question on 2301 welfare. That's the one we talked about that wasn't in before, but if something were to happen, we haven't had anything in years.
Right, so if we have, the reason it came up was because of the Marine we're helping out.
Okay.
If his trailer would have been condemned, the town's responsibility is to find him housing in the town. So we put that in, to try to buy maybe 4 to 5 months worth of housing to put him up in a hotel or something until we could, if you feel like you want to take that out, we could take it out. Just when you do the 1500s and 2000s, it just takes an awful lot of those to make a dent. But if you feel like that you want it out of there, we can discuss it.
What line?
Let me say 2601.
2301. It was just one that popped out because I know we didn't fund it before, but I remember Sean talking about how they used it in prior administrations. I'm not saying we have to take it out. I just wanted to double check on that before we move forward on any of these.
We don't have
want some
anything
questions.
standing in town right now that's pending for that use of that money. So, and if it has not been used for a number of years, I don't have a problem if you want to take it out.
And then some of the other ones, like the 911 dispatching, that's an increase that Groton is charging us.
Yeah, so that estimate is based on the number of calls that happen for the town of North Stonington. So they give us that based on call statistics. We don't have a say in that.
And there's
only-
no negotiation with it. Basically, it is what it is.
You
It was
wanna
a
go-
$9,500 increase. I mean, that's
We had a
pretty-
significant decrease into this year.
Yeah, look at the year
So-
before that. 2
Yeah, I
years
see
before
that.
that, it was like 48,000, went down to 30 something during COVID, then went back up. Want me to open up to the floor, Brett?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so we're gonna open up the floor for questions as well as the people online. Joe?
I believe the first selectman gave a presentation to the Board of Finance. It was one of the best damn presentations I saw. I believe the selectman board should stay with that budget. You gave them a good budget. I do not believe in putting a budget to get a vote. You cannot stay and you can take your own things. Everything goes up. I'm tired of this fudging budget, and I know they fudge it because I got it recorded at home where one of the members did say that if they can't make things meet, they fudge it. So that's their say. I didn't get a chance to go through all this stuff, but I sit here and I listen to you guys. You sharp knives, you're cutting through these things so nice. I'm not that way. I'm the dullest blade in this drawer. I hit it. It's done. I'll give you your budget to give the Board of Finance what they want without affecting how we run the town from the Board of Selectmen side. You won't agree with it, but it's going to do the job. You mentioned a couple of these things here. I say B3003. That was mentioned in the library. I say that thing gets cut. We do a hell of a job supporting them. They do a hell of a job supporting us. I'd like to give them that, but I don't get that in my own budget. I'd like to go to the social services. You mentioned B2301. I want to take that a little further. I want to go 2301 to 2317. Cut it. That gives you 45,000, whatever that figure is there, 45,501. Next one is we'll go to B2206. That's the North Stonington Education Center operation. That gives them 145,504. You've done more than your business. You haven't cut one thing that the selectmen said they need to run the damn town. I believe it's time that the selectmen stay with what they say. Give the taxpayer the budget that shows what it takes to run the town. Let the taxpayer come to the meeting and say, we don't want it. Then let them tell you what they want to cut. But I believe we're fudging this budget to go to the taxpayer just to get them to approve. That's a bunch of BS. I'm sorry, but I can't go along with that. And to my knowledge, the only reason why we're going to cut here is to keep it the same as a zero increase to where it was last year. That's a hell of a comment. Anybody that knows a dime or whatever it takes, you can't do that. So I don't think too good of the Board of Finance right now. We got some good people on there, but boy, I don't think we can get it coordinated. I'm asking the Board of Selectmen, stick with the initial budget that you gave them. If you take that and you cut another one now, I'm going to stand up and say that you presented one budget when you made the cuts, what you had. You make the second cut with the budget you had, and I'm going to ask you to do the third cut. And I'm going to ask that in front of all the taxpayers. I feel strong. You guys did your job. You made one hell of a presentation. Don't cut it back now just because somebody says, I want a zero increase. Come on, you can't do that. But the ones that I gave you don't hit you. They hit the town. They hit the town. They don't hit the selectmen running your things. Take what you got now. Go to your 5-year plan. You're talking about cutting that truck and putting it down, putting half now. Have you looked at what you got to do in 23 and 24? Well, you got a hell of a lot of stuff to do. What are you going to knock out of that to bring half of that truck into there? It's time we stop doing that. We do a 5-year plan. Let's live by the 5-year plan. But we go to this, I don't know. I'm asking you to stay with what you want. What you did, the first budget was a hell of a good presentation. And just to say they don't want to go up, no, I can't buy that. And don't cut it. Don't take another damn dime out of your budget. You did a good thing.
Thank you, Joe. Sean?
I just wanted to respond.
Go ahead, respond to Joe.
Joe, I totally understand what you're saying. I know it's coming. The voice is coming over there. No, I'm talking. I understand what you're saying, and it is a process that we have to go through. Unfortunately, I would like to comment that I hope next year when we go through this process, if the Board of Finance wants it a certain percentage or a certain dollar, that we get that guidance ahead of time, like Board of Finance did for the Board of Ed 2 years ago. Because all that debate we had our last budget meeting, fighting for this dollar, fighting for that dollar, saying, no, we don't want to take it out. And then we go there and we have to come back and cut it again. If we knew that from the start, that we'd be sent back because they had in mind what they wanted to see, it would save multiple meetings, at least one for sure. So I understand why you're saying go with the budget we had. I'd like to be able to do that in the future. I don't think we can do that now, but I'd like the Board of Finance to give us a guidance next year to say, this is where we need you to come in with. If you come in with this, then we can move things forward. But the back and forth, I think we all work well enough together now between the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Ed, and the Board of Finance, that we should be able to come up with that mutual agreement that we're working towards that common goal and move it forward in a timely manner. That's it.
Joe, and just to piggyback on that, sorry, Sean, 1 second. So I agree with Brett. I think that so the Board of Selectmen aren't cutting this budget because we want to make sure the budget passes and we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot just to get a budget that passes. We're cutting it because the Board of Finance has asked us to. So we are trying, this is a new board. We're a new administration, new board. We're trying to work well with the other boards, the Board of Ed and the Board of Finance. $106,000. When we looked at it, we think there's areas that we can do it in without hurting the town. I admit not too worried about the parking lot, but I am a little worried about the truck cut. I understand that, but because we've done capital in the past, but I think being this our first year in the administration, doing the best we can, the Board of Finance gave us guidance out of their last meeting, and that's why I believe that we're trying to go back and do what they asked. If we were to go to that meeting, cut the 106 and then have them come back to us and say, well, you know that you did that, we want you to go back and cut another 50, then that's where we'd have to draw the line in the sand. I agree. But right now we're trying to work with the Board of Finance, and they're a fairly new board. They have a new chairman. We're a new board. We have a new chairman. So, but I appreciate your comments, Joe. Sean?
I guess if I could start with a question. What's the capital budget requirements for the following fiscal year? Do you have the 5-year plan?
I don't have it with me. Christine should have it.
The point I'm trying to get through to folks is that in order to support our capital plan, it takes an average of $500,000 a year investment in capital. Capital items shouldn't be looked at as one-time items because if it's not that item being replaced, it's another one and so forth. I think, and Brett made a comment that the Board of Finance has indicated that about not including capital items in the budget and then coming back and for an additional appropriation. If you recall last year, that sort of went by the wayside when with the amount of complaints that the Board of Finance fielded on that philosophy. So they're not really supporting the idea of doing that. And most townspeople want to see all our requirements in the budget and not treated as additional appropriations.
So we only significantly vetted the current year. All of the asks that are in the capital budget for next year is $1.2 million. So that is not where we would be, but if we gave everyone what they asked for, that's
just the point I'm trying to make is that you have to, if you don't support $500,000 this year, that puts you $100,000 behind, and you automatically the following year have to have a larger increase in order to cover your capital. You have to ask the taxpayers for an additional, amount in taxation, or we have to obtain additional revenue to make up that $100,000 average. I think that the trailer, I think Donnie clearly expressed a need for the trailer and that we should support it out of our own budget. Capital items are our regular occurring, requirements in town to fulfill. And we shouldn't be looking for one-time grant money to fund our capital fund. If you look at it as a capital fund versus one particular item. The other thing I wanted to point out is that I agree with Nicole. The Board of Finance may have asked you for 109,000 and change reduction in expenses. But I think we all understand where that number came from. And it was, they were trying to get down to a reduction in the mill rate of 0.2 mils. And that was the amount of expenses that they wanted the selectmen to reduce the expenses by. But on the other hand, having recognized additional revenue, you could meet that same goal that they had by not eliminating the trailer. You could leave that in the budget. You could realize the revenue from the solar project and from the lease of the farmhouse, and you could meet that same goal of the Board of Finance of getting down to a 0.2 mil decrease for the townspeople. And so, number one, again, I don't like cutting capital. It's not, doesn't get you anywhere in the long run. About the library, we have been spending a lot of money on the upkeep of this building. They haven't budged one bit on their restriction for our deed, the deed restriction, which would help us get revenue into this building. Why are we increasing our funding to the library when they are, you might say, causing the town, potentially causing the town additional expenses because we don't have this place leased out? I think, and we don't have, I don't look at $65,000. I don't know how, what they provide for the town, how that has doubled in the last 4 years, because we've over doubled their budget, and now from 30,000 and now we're up to 65,000. They do good for a certain group of folks here that utilize their services, but I wouldn't see it as a, it's not like our schools where we would all agree that it's important that to provide that. Well, we're required to provide that, but we're not necessarily required to support Wheeler Library for just the, she never did tell us the number of different people that go there, because I don't think it's, but a third of the townspeople. And one more thing, the B22.06 North Stonington Education Center operating 85. Does that 85,000, what is that? What's included in their utilities, maintenance?
Yeah, that's the estimated amount of, if we knock down the middle school wing, the utilities, maintenance and operating costs for this area and the 2-story wing.
I'd like to point out to the selectmen the amount of money that we have in this budget for maintenance of town buildings and how it's grown over the years. B22.06 has a certain amount in there for maintaining this building. B27.1 under highway town building maintenance has dollars to maintain town buildings. B 27.11, town property maintenance labor. This account has evolved from a labor account and is now utilized, has been utilized by the town to do maintenance, to have folks provide maintenance to the town buildings as well. I might note that last year, out of this same account, we paid for a capital item. We replaced a generator out of this labor account last year. And then we have, of course, C 3.04, town building maintenance again. That has $20,000 in it. And it's evolved from a special projects account to a maintenance account as well. So I asked that the selectmen possibly look into that further, because we seem to have town building maintenance throughout the entire budget that we've never had used for that purpose before.
Thank you, Sean. Any comments on Sean's remarks? Sean, I'll make a couple of comments. One is, I think that's why we have comments and discussion. I think I'm going to actually decide with Nicole on that also, as far as the additional revenue. I think that does offset cutting the truck. So I think that makes sense to do that. I'm also going to side with Brett. I think that the library can be cut by $10,000 back to, not cut, or use Brett's words, will not increase their budget this year, leave it where it was last year. We are having trouble leasing out this building. It's been a nightmare over the last 3 years trying to get people in here. I don't want to hurt the library in any way, but it is a partnership on this building. Town has never once said if we can't do anything with the building, just give it back to the library, because that would not be the thing to do. So I'm sure they wouldn't want it back. There's not a reverter clause, but we could offer it back if we can't get it rented. So there's going to have to be some give and take on that deed restriction, we know, down the road. But as of tonight, I have to say that after the comments from Joe, Gross, and Sean, and in the discussion amongst ourselves, I think we should go back and look at each individual item and vote on it, on the individual items, and make determine on how we want to move forward. So we know that we're going to put in extra revenue for about $115,000, which is the revenue from the solar farm and the revenue from the rent coming in from Hewitt Farm, the 1750 house. So we know that. Do we want to vote on the $50,000 for the parking lot?
Yeah, we can vote individually or all together, because I made a list of the 3 top ones with a cut even based after Sean's comment.
So
I'll just tell you what I was thinking was the library, 10,000. The trailer, I'm not in favor of leaving it in full. I think when we talk about the capital plan, we talked about trying to put in chunks of money so we can purchase them out. So I would like to just split it for 2 years so $46,000 there, and then the seal coating for 50,000.
So when you say split it, we don't know if the truck will last 2 years. So you're saying put half, buy the truck, put half in this year, buy the truck, and then pay the second half of it next year? Are you talking like a 2-year lease?
I mean,
to
we
buy?
can, no. I mean, if you had to do it that way, you could, but no, I would say put it in this year, plan on getting it July of 2024. Yes. 23,
Three.
correct.
But if the truck doesn't make it that far?
Then at least we have
I was
46,000
just
in
gonna
there.
say, yeah, at least we have 46 in there, and then we only have to take the other half out of maybe undesignated.
Right, and then we'll have a firm number on what it would go. Now, there could be some escalation costs. It could come down the way the market is. So I'd be against taking it out completely. But I think showing that, look, we're moving towards our capital plan of saying we want to start budgeting for these things. Just like at first, part of me thought about taking some 5,000 out of POCD, saying, look, do we need that full 30 this time? Can we go 25? Because we don't really have a firm number on that yet either. But I'd rather start moving in that direction that we keep talking about of planning. And to me, putting the trailer and purchasing it right now wasn't planned. We didn't plan it at all. It just came up and we took the truck out and put that in. And I know we witnessed some things that it could use and that it might go, but it didn't sound immediate. And I'd like to plan for it and at least have the half in there.
And you have three things, that was two.
The parking lot.
Okay.
And then I'd like to look into whether we can do it ourselves over the next few months or so.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm in favor of taking the parking lot out. Right off the bat, I like the idea of keeping 46,000 in for the trailer. And just if worse comes to worse and it bites the dust in the next year, then we at least only have to take out the other half. That leaves us what, 96,000 with just those. And then with the $115,000 of additional revenue, I think we're in good shape.
So then we have to do it individually because if he adds the library in there,
Yep,
you're not for
that's fine.
that. So then we have to talk about it individually.
So, I mean, we can do it the long way, or we can just, I know the two of you are in favor of taking the 10,000 out from the library. I am not in favor. I'm going to lose that vote. So I understand that. Let's just go to vote on the bigger package. Right? I mean, I would vote no to keep it in. You guys have both said, I know that I'm going to end up losing out on that. I'm not fine with it, but it is what it is. That's the compromise. So we can do it both ways. We can do it one at a time, or we can just go for the full package.
So even though you're gonna, we'll say you vote positive for the full package, you just wanted to make sure people know publicly that you are not in favor, even though the library is part of the package, you're not in favor of the $10,000 cut.
Yeah,
for
that-
That-
Yes.
That makes sense.
Okay, then
And
I'll-
I want everybody to know that I'm not against the library in any means. I think they're a valuable resource to the town. I just, when I look at the increases over the years, they're pretty dramatic compared to other organizations and other groups that we give money to. So I'm just saying we don't need to make that big jump this year.
They
but over
also said in their presentation that with whatever bigger plans they have for the coming years, they're going to end up coming
They're going
back
to come
to
back
us
to us.
for a significant amount. So we'll have to deal with that.
Right, and I take that
hear
into
that
account too, when
presentation.
they
Yeah.
say that, knowing at some point we're gonna have to give them, well, we're not gonna have to, but
Yeah,
there'll be a
we're gonna
request
partner
for
with
some money
them
to
and- yeah.
partner with them. Just like we, Bob, like you said, you hope they partner with us with helping us do something with
Yeah.
the building.
So I just want to know what your feelings are, though, because we were told and we were given the directive to come back and cut 106,000.
And that's
we're
exactly
cutting-
what we do with those three things.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I
It
forget.
comes out to the 106.
Sorry.
And that just happened to work out as I did the half of the truck.
So we do
No,
the,
seriously, I was like half of the truck.
I'm sure that
As a
Brett was up half the night trying to carve out the 106 to a T.
so with that said, let's entertain a motion. Can I hear one, please?
I'll make a motion to cut 10,000 from the library, which is, or to reduce 3303. That's what I wrote down. I just want to double. So 3003. So I make a motion that we fund the library consistent with what we funded last year at 65.
Mhm.
We put in $46,000 for the walking trailer. And we zero out the
Parking lot.
parking lot,
some
which
capital.
is C 501, 501. For a total reduction of $106,000.
Okay.
And we add in the revenue of. what was
So
the
you
total,
would be
Christie?
adding 101,259 to A 1.00 and 14,400 to A 5.15.
If we do all that, the net windfall is what? 106
Well,
plus
That's my
115.
motion. I'll end it with that.
$221,659.
Great, thank you. All right, so there's a motion on the floor from Brett. Do I hear a second? If not, I would do it.
I second.
Thank you, Nicole. Okay, so we have a motion and we had it seconded. Any further discussion? Anything online? Okay, all in favor of approving the motion as stated, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. 3-0. Okay. Moving on. Norwich Wesley Road, 298 Norwich Wesley Road to be exact. So we ran into a snag on Norwich Wesley Road. We found out, I don't know why I didn't remember this. When I mentioned it to Sean, he remembered it. It was an argument we used to renovate the elementary school. We can't be bringing little kids up to the second floor. It's against state statute. If you're under the first grade or younger, you cannot be on the second floor of a building. At the old elementary school, before it was renovated, we used to bring preschoolers, kindergartners, and first graders up to do their computer lab, because that's where the computer lab was. And then we argued that that was against state statute, because if there was a fire, the little kids would be trampled by the big kids coming down the stairs. That is true, though, and George Brennan, the fire marshal, pointed it out to us. So we went back to the potential leaser that was going to look at the second floor as possible early learning center, and now we're working on Plan B. She is now looking at the first floor for the building. There is some positives about the first floor, one being that's not the second floor. There's a door that goes directly outside, which according to George Brennan, the fire marshal, a toddler room has to have a door that goes directly to the outside of the building. You can't run them down the corridor like you could other kids. So it has that. So she's looking at the majority of the rooms on the first floor minus the workshop, the wood shop, and the lab directly across the way. So you say, well, wasn't there a theater group looking at the first floor? And that is true. And I've since given tours to the second floor to the theater group. I'm spending a lot of time over there. I think I'm half real estate agent, half tour guide. But we have met, and then she has some space on the second floor that she thinks she can use, and she could use the wood shop. And we would make an arrangement with the schools that they could still use the wood shop also, but they could use it, she would use it for making sets. We were at the Hewitt Farm today with the theater group, a little off track here, that she wants to do a Shakespeare in the Park play, and we're looking at in the amphitheater over there and see how that would work. So she's definitely interested. We have not completely blown up the deal with the early learning center. She's now looking into moving there's no bathrooms on the first floor of the 298 two-story wing, which is amazing, but there isn't. There is plenty of plumbing, because those are labs. Every room has sinks. There are bathrooms on the second floor. We have the original plans from the building, was built in 1964. Willie Quinones is the now building superintendent, I guess you'd say, or what is his exact title, Christine? Do you know Willie's title? Facility manager, exactly. Thank you. So he's going to work with this potential tenant and her fiance, who happens to be an engineer, to see about what would bring cost on their dime to bring the water down to the first floor and have bathrooms on the first floor. So if that all comes to fruition, which I hope it does, then we'll start seeing income for the two-story wing on both floors. Don't know what that income will be yet, because there's less square footage that she'll be taking. She would have taken the entire second floor. Now she's taking, we'll say, 2/3 of the first floor. So that's where we are. It's a work in progress, and we hope we can work something out. Any questions on that? Comments? No. Okay, move right along to the Ask Me contract ratification. So as a town, we have to meet this year with two different unions. One's the Steelworkers Union, which is the town garage public works department minus the assistant foreman. The assistant foreman falls into, Christine can explain why, I guess, falls into the town hall union, which is the AFSCME union. Now you can imagine that with all the negative information on TV when it comes to price of gas and utilities and what it costs to fill your shopping cart at Stop and Shop these days. This was not going to be an easy negotiation. The last negotiation 3 years ago, I remember the first selectman coming and say that was pretty easy to get that accomplished. This was a little bit different. We had multiple negotiations in this very room, but I think the town made out fairly well, considering where the starting point was with the union to where the finish point was, where we ended up. If you look in your, look in the results, there's we can't talk specifically about what was on the table, what we negotiated, but we can tell about results. And the results were that there's a 3-year deal. They get 2.75 in year 1, 2.5 in year 2, and 2.25 in year 3. You can say that that was a lot more favorable and closer to the town side of the bargaining than it was to the union side of the bargaining. We also made some changes in their contributions to their healthcare. There's been no change in days off or holidays. We did make one change. When you hit the 20-year mark, you went to 5 weeks vacation. And I think that's all the high points. Was there something I missed?
The other thing that was added was a step schedule for
Correct.
the positions. So prior to this, we just had one flat amount. So if someone were to leave, the new person would be hired at the exact same rate, whether they were with the town for 20, 30 years, the new person with no experience is getting the same rate. The steelworkers contract has a 10-step system in it. So we have now a 3-step plan within this union. We think 3 steps is more than sufficient, but at least it gives us a little bit of flexibility if we do have any retirements and need to replace people.
So we could hire someone at the first step, which is not at the same funding as the person's been here for a number of years. We may find we want to hire them at the second or third step, depending on how much experience they bring to the job. But at least it gives the town the ability to negotiate and bring them in at the earliest. Very similar to what they do with teachers' contracts and so on. So again, you have copies of the agreement. And at this point, I'd like to see if we could, as a board, ratify this contract. We've already represented the numbers in the budget with the additional 275 for this coming year. It's in the read.
Well, I have done that, but it's not in something that you all have seen. So once you ratify them, we can review those.
So the budget we could present to the Board of Finance, if we ratify this tonight, would be, I think it's the increase is around what, $4,200?
Around.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, because I know when we were first doing the budget, I think that, was it just a flat
We
2%?
carried 2 across the board.
So the budget that we presented to the Board of Finance had still just a 2% increase?
Correct.
And the difference you're saying is only 4,000 and change?
We haven't done the steelworkers contract yet.
How does that work? if the-
$4,610.
Okay, so not a big increase.
Because it's
but-
only a 0.75% increase because we've already represented the
Gotcha.
2.
Okay. Gotcha.
And we can't talk about any parts of this because you just want us to ratify.
It's a yes or no.
Okay.
You
I'll-
can talk about it, but you can't change it.
I can't change it, no. I would like to, if, looking at this, going, next time this comes up, it would be nice to change the vacation program to have an accrual system where you start accumulating from when you start, much like the state has. I just know as when you're recruiting for some new positions, not having any time off for a year is sometimes difficult. I'd like to next time look at, I might not be here, but look into that way of doing it. That way you accrue the time each week or hours each week. It just makes it.
Can I comment on that without being in violation? No.
Nope.
Thank you.
Duly noted. Thank you.
So can I just make a motion to ratify it?
You could.
I'd like to make a motion to ratify, what's the name of it? The agreement between the town of North Stonington and the local 1303-463 of council number 4, American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFL-CIO, for the time span of July 1st, 2022 through June 30th of 2025, as presented in our packets.
I would say so moved.
Say that again?
So moved. Second.
Oh,
Okay, so we have a first and a second discussion. Yeah, okay. Just bring it to a vote. All in favor of ratifying this contract as read by Nicole, say aye.
aye.
Opposed? Okay, ratified. Now we can put the numbers in the budget.
Okay, so
Can I ask just a question on a point of order? If there was something in there that we were vehemently opposed to, what's our recourse? What's the,
Go back to negotiations.
you'd have to go back to negotiation.
Notify the union that the Board of Selectmen did not pass it, go back and try to renegotiate.
Just curious.
And now, does this sit for a certain amount of time? I know like there's something with the school one that has to sit.
that's by statute. It does not happen that way on the town side.
So only on the education side. Okay.
And that sits, what is it, 30 days?
30 days.
That's what I
Gotcha.
thought, yeah.
So once we approve this, it's approved.
Yes.
And we have not started negotiating with the other group yet. That's supposed to start, we hopefully in about 2 weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, steel workers.
We haven't heard. Hopefully,
Maybe they don't want a new contract.
that could be.
Perfect.
So instead of it being an overall change of 221,659, it's a change of 217,049.
Okay. Still pretty much double of what was asked of us.
Yeah, so instead of cutting 106, you're cutting 101,390 without a calculator, but I'll double check my math.
Thank you.
Now we're just cutting into the revenue a little more.
No.
Okay, tax refunds. You have a list with you from tonight's packet?
So can I just have a little tiny educational moment? So am I to understand that these entities that I see on this page have overpaid property
That's
taxes?
correct,
Okay, and the town is reimbursing them back a refund?
correct.
Okay,
And you'll see over the course of doing these, Nicole, over the next 2 years, a lot of it is leasing agents, financial, it's Alley Financial, Honda Lease, VW Credit. So a lot of it is that things that are paid by the car companies, only to find out they overpaid.
and how do you want me?
I would
do
say
have
we
to
could
read?
either approve them individually or can approve them as a group and just read the names, so. in the
So,
amounts.
so I'll make a motion to approve the property taxes to Ally, do I name them out?
Yeah, that, but the Alley Financial 143.
Okay. To Ally Financial for $143.66, for the Honda Lease Trust for $105.10, the Honda Lease Trust again for $217.53, for the VW Credit Leasing LTD, $331.50, and for the VW Credit Leasing LTD, $433.61, for a total of refunds of $1,231.40.
Second that.
Okay, and you see attached is all the backup for each one of those tags. Okay. Okay, so we have a motion. It's been seconded by Brett. Any discussion? Having none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Done. Let's go back. Minutes. Well, it looks like we have only one set of minutes.
So I would like to make a motion to approve the Town of North Stonington Board of Selectmen meeting on March 8th, 2022 at 6:30 PM. The minutes as written in our packet.
Thank you. For your second.
Second.
Okay, your first, a motion and a second. Any discussion? None. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. So here we come to public comments. Is there any public comment? Sean?
So I guess in the labor, you've adjusted only the union folks. And I'm wondering about other town hall employees that aren't union, such as our bookkeeper. Is it spelled out in her contract or increase?
The accounting generalist and the administration and finance officer have it spelled out in their contracts that their increases are tied to the union. The highway foreman's increase is tied to the steelworkers.
And what are the elected officials tied to?
They're not tied to anything. So I believe we left them in the budget as a 2% increase as what was originally scheduled.
And you've made an adjustment for those union folks, but not that how are we going to handle the highway department as an additional appropriation?
We
If
haven't
it's not in the
negotiated.
budget well, why wouldn't you increase the highway departments to that same amount? Which is, versus the 2% now, based on another contract being awarded for that amount. I know it's not firm, but now you're going to have to go back and after the Board of Finance and the town approves a budget or whatever, you're more likely to have to adjust the budget.
I think that we are hopeful that we would have that number before we moved to the town meeting. So if a change needs to be made after the annual budget hearing in April, then we could make that minor change just to those positions to move forward for the annual town meeting.
Because after the public hearing, the Board of Finance has the right to change the budget prior to town meeting, correct?
And the last budget that went to the Board of Finance, you've made adjustments to it tonight and you voted on, the Board of Selectmen have voted on those changes versus approving a new total.
I'm doing those calculations right now. So before we adjourn, I will ask for a motion to approve those budget numbers.
Right, I
thought of
think
that
you
too.
need to revisit 8A or 8A and, again, in the budget and approve the actual totals once she has them. Otherwise, you're not taking an official vote on that.
Thank you, Sean.
Thanks.
That makes sense. Thank you so much. Okay. Joe, you want to say something? No.
Sean's my buddy, you see that? I know I come on a little bit strong and not a real polite manner in doing things, but I feel you got to get things across to people so they understand. The majority of the taxpayers, you don't see them here. I think there's probably 3 you can count on that tend to know what tech's going on, but the others don't. And to talk to them, it's just tough. Sean brought out a lot of things too also. I believe the same thing. We got existing in our structure of our own organization 4 chairpersons or things in different organizations making more money than our first selectman. That's terrible. That's got to be increased. I know it's not your responsibility to tell the Board of Finance, but somehow the Board of Finance has got to recognize that they have to provide that. So I'm going to go strong with that. I'm going to stay strong in meetings that I attend to hold you to your first presentation. Well, I just think that right there was the greatest thing. And to make any of these cuts on anything within the town, we're just hurting the taxpayer. Cutting that truck in half, you're just putting something down the road. Next year, we got to cut something out to make that payment for that. And if you look at what we got, all we do every time we put that stuff down, we're just pounding ourselves in the grave. We got to stop. I think that this year, with the board that we have, is the time to do stuff. It'd be the first time. Let's give it a go. There's first things happening everywhere in that. I believe a few of these items we've individually recognized on our own, and like the library thing and that. But I think you guys do a good job. I believe the Board of Finance tries to do a good job. We do have some good people on there, but it's a learning process. But what I say tonight, I don't want anybody to take hard, but I just feel I got to get across to you. You made the decision, and damn it, we got to stay by that decision. I think it was a good one. That's all.
Thank you, Joe. I think there was a lot of good comments this evening. I think one thing you have to say about this board, we're still a new board, but we listen. I think there was some compromise made after we heard the comments this evening. I think that's what you want of a board of selectmen. So, I mean, you saw compromise after we heard the comments, you just saw a compromise within the board itself. So that's all we can do, is do the best we can. I think that we made a good decision this evening. I think that things seem to be moving in the right direction for the town. So, but I do appreciate all the comments that were made, and hopefully that the Board of Finance will find similar approval of our moves. So, Sean?
Just to share I've shared some numbers with Bob about this. Just the town of Hopkinton supports two different ambulance associations at a tune of $62,000 each. Hopkinton is a town of 8,000. Just to give you, we're not underfunding our ambulance association by any means. Also about that, the ambulance association did not ask for their funding this year until halfway through the year. Here it is 3/4 through the year, and they haven't asked for the second half of the funding yet. Just some statistics. So whatever you.
The first request from the ambulance asked for the first 3/4 of the year. So
3/4.
Yes.
I'm wrong on that. I'm sorry. I didn't. I did the transaction, but I didn't take note of what it was for. Like the time. The next thing is the town of Hopkinton, 8,000. They pay 68,000 to their library.
Thank you, Sean. And as I mentioned earlier, this meeting that we were going to be discussing the ambulance service down the road. Thank you. Okay. Where are we in this meeting?
okay, so to go back to your budget figures, your new general government number is 5,318,361. So 5,318,361. Your new your redemption of debt is the same at 1,382,949, and your new capital is 408,655. 408,655 for a total of $7,109,965.
And what does that represent as far as a percentage?
Don't have that because this version has the Board of Ed in it.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
I did not put the Board of Ed's reduction in. I can.
They reduced theirs 106. Where's that leave us total?
Was anybody able to log on last night to see what it was that they cut?
Yeah, 106. I was on the meeting. Exactly 106.
No, what did they cut?
Oh, it was in 2 or 3 areas. They had some teachers that were retiring and they were hiring at the lower step. There was a little bit of supplies, some things they changed over from their budget to their undesignated fund, unassigned fund. So they actually came up with 108 and they decided to put 2,000 back in supplies and leave it 106 because that was what the ask was.
So the new percent increase with Board of Ed's new number is 2.64%. We were at 3.62.
Okay. So with the change in our budget, which we have is 7,109,965 is our total budget. Can we entertain a motion on that?
So moved.
Thank you. Second. All right, so I motioned, he so moved it, so he seconded it. Any further discussion?
No,
Okay, then I would say, let's vote on this to move this budget forward to the Board of Finance, which I guess I'll present on Monday if they have a meeting.
They have not determined when they're having their meeting. There was talk of a Monday special meeting, but I think after a meeting you're having on Thursday, you'll have a better idea.
Great, thank you. All right, so we have a motion on the floor and we had it seconded. All in favor of approving the budget as stated, say aye.
aye.
Aye. Great, 3-0. That's the number. We're gonna go to the Board of Finance. When they do have a meeting, I'll present it to them. Explain to them that we cut and we added to the revenue side. Hopefully that works out well for both the Board of Finance and the town. And next meeting, April 12th, not counting Board of Finance meetings in between, but next official meeting of ours is April 12th at 6:30. We'll probably talk more about the ambulance service at that time. We might talk about the transfer station, we'll probably talk more about you at farm and renting out the farmhouse. So with all those things said, April 12th, 6:30. If there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
I would love to make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Right, so we have a motion to adjourn. The time right now is
8:18.
8:18. Okay, all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,